Planet Dolan.
From sniffing dirty panties to bragging about being rich, the Planet Dolan crew reenacts some of the best true stories from our subreddit about the most frustrating thing a housemate has ever done. I'm Pringle the One, and today I'll be your narrator. Number 10 was submitted by Jason CPR21. Helbin's housemate invited a girl once over, and he assured Helbin that she would be sleeping outside in her car. She gave Helbin a strange look, but he just shrugged it off. It was this point he saw that his underwear drawer was wide open, and his door was open too. He went to investigate and saw the basement light was on. He slowly walked towards the door and opened it, and stood in shock at what he saw. His housemate's friend was standing butt naked, sniffing his underwear. She ran out the house with his underwear and drove off, still butt naked. He immediately told his housemate and they never heard from her again. Number 9 was submitted by Star Swirls. Melissa's cousin was staying at her house for 2 weeks at Thanksgiving, so she decided to cook a tuna casserole. She was about to serve him a plate, but he wasn't at the table. She looked over to see him completely naked on the couch for some reason. When she told him to put some clothes on, he screamed, "No!" and got up and started twerking at her. She was so shocked she dropped the casserole on the floor. Apparently this was his idea of a joke. It was pretty intense at the time, but luckily she can laugh about it now. Number 8 was submitted by DJJD423. One day Sweet Commando was visiting his family. While he was out, his housemate sent him a text saying she was having a date over. 4 hours later, he sent her a text telling her he was on his way home, but she never messaged back. When he got back to his house, he opened the door to find his housemate and her date were completely naked, having coitus in the middle of the living room. The room stunk of marijuana and their eyes were bright red. He immediately went back out and then spent the night at a friend's house and never mentioned the incident again. Number 7 was submitted by Nine Tails Girl 23. Snoopy's house is generally pretty clean, but unfortunately there's one issue. She is the only person who cleans their dishes. Her housemates would cook massive meals and then leave the dishes in enormous piles next to the sink. One day she decided enough was enough and refused to clean anyone's dishes anymore. Instead of learning their lesson, her housemates let the pile grow so high that it almost touched the ceiling. So one night when her housemates got home, she screamed at them at the top of her lungs. The dishes were always spotless after that. Number 6 was submitted by Tinkerbell911. 1 year ago, Doopy's housemate did something very shocking. She was showering and her flatmate banged on the door. He told her to get out because it was his turn and he needed to get to work. She finished showering as fast as she could. He kept banging and said, "If she didn't get out right now, he would break the door down." She didn't think he was serious, so she kept drying herself. Thankfully, Doopy was wearing her robe because 2 seconds later, her impatient housemate kicked the entire door off its hinges. He threw her out the shower, but she had the last laugh when she had him evicted. Number 5 was submitted by Liutgard. Honeybit's roommate had a frustrating habit. Her housemate would start a conversation and then turn around and walk down the hall to her room, assuming Honeybits could still hear her. She even found her talking from her closet. Honeybits asked her if she could, at the very minimum, stay in the same room when they are having a conversation from now on. She agreed, but continues to insist on having a conversation whenever Honeybits is running water or cooking or showering. Now she just nods, pretending she can hear her roommate whenever she mumbles under loud noises. Number 4 was submitted by TheBlackAnkh. Salty Squid was once having a furious game of Madden with his new housemate. He was beating his housemate in the game, and his housemate was not happy. His face kept getting redder and redder until suddenly he leaped up and started screaming wildly and ran to the kitchen. He came back with a giant butcher knife and wielded it towards Salty Squid. Luckily, Salty Squid was able to defend himself until the police arrived, and his housemate was arrested for assault, all because he was losing at Madden. He probably picked a garbage team. Number 3 was submitted by LalitaDevi. When Pandora moved into a new share house, she asked her new roommate if she could split the cost of things like toilet paper. The housemate told Pandora that she doesn't use toilet paper. She only uses her hand to wipe, and a sponge which she left on the side of the sink for number 2s. Pandora respected her choice, but couldn't help but feel sick seeing her poo sponge sitting next to the toilet every day. It was especially gross when she could tell from the color of the sponge which time of the month it was. Number 2 was submitted by TheMarshmallowGamer. Last year, Nixium's friend needed a place to stay as her family was out of town. He offered to let her stay at his house for a week. Over the next week, She kept shoving her fancy new laptop in Nixium's face, saying, "Shame you can't afford one," in the most arrogant tone he had ever heard. Nixium was extremely poor at the time. She kept making relentless jokes about how poor he was until one day he grabbed her bag, threw it outside into the rain, and chucked her out after it. She started yelling at him, but he just replied, "I might be poor, but you're homeless." He never spoke to her again. Number 1 was submitted by me, your narrator, Pringle the One. The most frustrating thing a housemate has ever done to me was during my time in the Marine Corps. We took a trip to the cafeteria, and whenever we ate the cafeteria food, man, it would make our stomach ache, and when we would return back to our rooms, it really made it smell bad. This time around, my roommate used the bathroom, and while he was in there, I really needed to use it. And I asked him, "What are you doing in there?" Because he was in there for a whole hour, and he said, "I'm letting it all out, man." The following day, we had what is called a field day inspection, a random one at that. Usually, we have a higher up go into our rooms and check if they're clean or not. As fate would have it, they went into our rooms, and the higher up screamed out my name, "Private First Class Pringle, where the hell are you?" I was scared and I immediately ran into my room, and they said, "Look what's inside of your goddamn toilet, Private First Class Pringle." I saw what they were talking about, and the first thing that came into my head was, look at this disgusting abomination of poo-poo I've ever seen in my life before. The higher-ups were infuriated, so they made me clean all the bathrooms in the whole complex. During that same day, my housemate came into my room, and he said, "What happened, man?" And I said, "What the hell do you mean what happened? I got in trouble because of you." And he said, "Are you sure, brother? Maybe you just didn't flush." After that, I truly believed I had a bastard of a housemate. Huge thanks for the folks over on our Planet Dolan subreddit for submitting their stories. We have another question for you. What's the worst way you found that you no longer have a romantic partner? Let us know in the Reddit page link below, and you might be featured in a future countdown. Take care, everybody. Much love and appreciation. Peace.